It was an e-cast, first of all. I remember I was reading some letters, praying, telling about myself. And then I had a real casting with Grant Hill here in Berlin with Valerie together already. And so there were 2 castings, and then 2 weeks later the casting manager was calling me and saying, August, you have it. And I didn't realize it by this time. I was just, okay. And then I got into the material, and I remember the first time when I read the script, and I had a lot of talks also with Terence. He was calling me a lot. And I remember the first moment I was really thinking, this is so strong. It was much clearer. It was a war. It was about killing people. It was very clear that the Nazi regime was a very tough one and was like against the weak people. And for somebody who's like believing in Christianity, it has to be. It's actually more the question why so less people did this, because it was actually obvious that it starts with you don't have to kill anybody, or you like the simple rules. And in our days, the machinery, I think, is still there, but it's much more hidden and much more invisible. This is the other part of the story, actually, that must have been so tough for the family, and for a woman standing alone with 3 kids, knowing that the whole village and community, their home, the people they were growing up with, were turning against them. So this is also something that Franz Jägerstätter saw or felt also in the letters, that there is a big change at home because of this. It was something that I found out later, that even in the village it was kind of very obvious that they're especially in love with each other. They were doing things in these days, or between farmers, that were not really common to do. They were holding hands, they were standing on the field holding hands, probably not kissing all the time, but they were like so close. And especially when all this happened, I think they kind of got another special step in their closeness. Like finally a thing that maybe this is our faith, maybe God wants this from us. And I can imagine there were also struggles, but it's very obvious in these letters how much, especially she, was always giving him courage and saying, you're on the right path, and God is with us, and I am with you. My love is for eternity. And they were really daring to write things down like completely true and simple. Everybody around him was also not very much angry at him. It's very, also you can, like the judge and also the other prisoners and the guards, they were all like looking at him more with curiosity and with something like, who are you? What do you know what we don't? Like a little bit like an insect, like something very obscure, like they wanted to know. And the judge was at the end also saying it's kind of a drama, because I can't judge you. You judge yourself. It's something I can't do. It's a little bit like Pilatus said, you know, my hands are bound. I wash my hands in unguilt, however you say in English. Like it was something that he became kind of in a very simple way and not that big, but like a Christ figure. Terence is very curious about, not so much about the acting, this is also something, but first of all he was much more curious about myself and with whom he's gonna work with. Like, I remember we were talking a lot about just life and how we see things, and I told him that I grew up in France, also on a farm, more or less, without electricity, and he was very curious about all this, about how I live and what my experience is, not so much about movies, more like with life. The first and most important thing for him, I guess, is the light and the picture. And you're a part of it. It is, the story is not so much told by actors and dialogues, it's more told by by pictures. He sees, I think he's right actually, movies, the big difference between movie and theater is that the theater has to do with acting first. There is no good theater work in the world with bad actors. It doesn't exist. But exists in cinema a little bit, like you can have the most beautiful movies ever with average acting or with and he's so I think the movie thing belongs much more to the building art, like painting and sculpturing. And he's like this. He's and you have to find your part in this as a color, as something which is not unimportant. Doesn't want to say this, but it's like it is. You're like the light. You're like, and that makes you after a while also very decent and because you know that you're a part of, you're connected to the world and to the story, and in a different way than that you have the responsibility to tell a story. He tells the story with the pictures. You're telling the situation. She's a very, very special partner. I can't remember I ever had such a partner, and like a very, very. We were actually both very much devoting ourselves into this because it has so much to do with trust. Because you do, of course, a lot of uninteresting things from an acting point of view, and you have to trust somebody very much to do this. And we risked a lot. And with Valerie, I felt from the first moment on that she's willing to do the same, to take the same risk, like just to go into it. It is so special, actually. First of all, I never experienced something like that, this way of shooting. And it's like we're almost like all of us constantly in a flow of shooting. There are very seldom pauses, which doesn't make it more exhausting like other movies. Actually, for me, always is the pause the most exhausting thing. But you're here, you're constantly on, and you're always in character, actually. And I have the feeling I'm acting less and less and less and less. And sometimes they were even shooting me while I was asleep somewhere or sitting on a meadow, or it's all the movie. Everything what happens is always the movie. It's wonderful because you go through a long, not even a scene, like, or a situation, a mood, and he's not cutting it when it's getting boring or doesn't tell anything. So you work and work. You do fire. You're haying. You're scything the meadows. You have this normal life as a farmer, but for real, not framed into a scene. But you're working. You clean the stable. You do this. You do that, and then even then you have a pause. You're sitting on a bench. You do nothing, and after a while, sometimes, or most of the times, actually something is happening after 20 minutes, which no one ever could direct or even write down, or because it comes really from the situation we've been in, mostly Valerie and me. And it's a bit like also this telling a situation less than a story. It is a bit like there exists the sentence in French, un homme heureux n'a pas d'histoire. Like, if you're happy, you don't have any story. And it is the story that comes into our life as farmers, our happiness, actually, our family life. It's the story itself that makes the whole drama. And I think it starts actually when they ask him to serve in the army, and when he's been called up. We've been there only for 5 days in Radegund. When I haven't been there before, it is in comparison to the place we were shooting. The most of the things we did was in South Tyrol, like in the mountains, big in the Dolomites, huge mountains, and it's not at all like this there. The landscape is pretty flat, a lot of hills. But as we shot in so wide angles, I saw it immediately. It was not possible to shoot it there because you have always modern houses here and there, and the cornfields, and it looks very modern. But it's I guess it's a very tiny, strong Catholic community. Sankt Radegund shows it already, the name, that it's like a holy Catholic place.